Hello and welcome to today's edition of Great Recruiters Company Spotlight. My name's Adam Conrad, founder and CXO of Great Recruiters. We are online reputation management, review, referral generation, and we are a beacon of light for our staffing industry clients. I'm joined here today with Aram Hampoyan, or Aram H, as he said, works, and he is the CEO of CoreMedical Group. Aram, how are you doing today?
Living the dream, Adam. How are you?
I'm living the dream. Sometimes I have to pinch myself just to make sure I'm really alive. But no, everything is good and in full swing of summer of baseball. So it's great recruiters and great baseball players. That's what I'm
Nice.
focused on.
Sounds fun.
Um, hey, so I was recently in Omaha, and this theme I want to talk about was somebody said the strategy for a lot of companies today is to survive to 25, meaning to me like just sit back, don't do anything, and just weather the storm, and things will be great. And I'm much more of the thought of what we can do to thrive to 25. And we're in a very different market than we were a couple years ago. And I'd love to really unpack that and learn more what you're doing at Core Medical to help your organization thrive. But before we really dig in, can you just give an introduction to yourself, to your organization, and just provide some color there?
Sure. Aram Himpoyan, been with Core Medical Group for almost 20 years. We focus on travel nursing, therapy, physicians, and perm placement. We've been around for almost 25 years. And my background was I started as an account executive in our therapy division and have moved up and now sit at the top of Core Medical Group, and I get to sit in my ivory tower and make decisions. But overall, it's the team here that really, you use the word thrive. The reason we thrive is our team, top to bottom, executes each and every day.
Yeah, and I'll do a little bragging for your recruiters over there at Core. I was looking at some data, and over the last 9 months, you've amassed over 1,200 reviews on Great Recruiters. You have a 4.91 star rating. You're highly rated in all five of the great traits of being genuine and responsive, experienced advisors, transparent. So, whatever you're doing over there, the healthcare providers or the healthcare workers that you're supporting are feeling it. So
Yep.
kudos to you for those ratings. And I think you also have in the
Thank you.
last 9 months amassed another 145 Google reviews. So people
Mhm.
are happy to share the great work that you guys are doing. So congrats to that. Can you talk a little bit about like your approach? I know company culture, core values has been very core, no pun intended, to Core Medical. But can you talk a little bit about the culture that you've built over there?
Yeah, I'd say it's a great culture, but it's evolving. COVID kind of threw a little wrench into our current culture. So, previous to COVID, we were in the office 5 days a week. Now we're a hybrid model. The reason we are so successful in our culture is our people, right? There's no difference between our internal versus our external. Without great people, you're not going to be successful in staffing, whether that's your clinical colleagues in the field or your internal team, such as you said, the recruitment team. The recruiters do a phenomenal job, but they're supported by our operations team. And without our great operations team, our recruiters wouldn't be able to execute there too. So overall, myself and a couple of our business partners took over the company around 6 years ago. And at that time, we didn't have core values. We had them, but we didn't have them, if that makes sense. We didn't think about them the way we think about them today. It took us probably about a year for us to work with everyone in the organization. We had different breakout sessions talking about core values. Our leadership team put up what we thought our core values were, and we gave that to the staff and asked them to think about it. And it took a whole year for us to get to the values that we have today. But I'm really proud of how our leadership team thinks about them, how our staff executes. And each and every day when we're talking about a staff member, it's, hey, are they living our values? And one of them, as you mentioned just now, is transparency. And
Mm.
so whether it doesn't matter what role you're in at the organization, you are supposed to be as transparent as possible with the other person on the other side so you can give them a glimpse into what's happening. We want to be successful, and we feel like giving people as much transparency as possible is one of those values that we should live each and every day.
And can you share what the other core values are at Core Medical?
Oh, of course, yeah. Make it happen is a big one. So we're always trying to, use that, make it happen. Whether it's get a person their dream job, or whether it's completing a report on time. Everyone, within the organization, should be doing that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Giving back is a big part of our culture. Whether it's giving back to people and helping patients, which is our ultimate customer, or working at a local charity or soup kitchen. We have VTO hours. We have different quarterly charities. So we're always trying to support, whether it's local or national, as well. We already
Yeah.
talked about transparency as one of them. Don't take yourself too seriously is another one. Like, we all are here trying to, do our jobs the best we can.
Right.
But overall, we're not the clinicians. We're not performing surgery or anything like that. So you shouldn't take yourself too seriously. We're a family. You talked about our culture. You talked about how strong it is. Part of that strong culture comes from respecting the people around you and living the same values as you would want to, in your family, and then living by the golden rule too, making the right decisions, in the absence of leadership, management, living the golden rule and making sure that you are acting in a professional and, ethical standards.
No, that's really good. And how do you leverage the core values? Because I talk to a lot of companies and they have core values, and I think for unfortunately for I think a lot they end up just being maybe words on paper or words on a wall, right?
Yep.
So how do you make sure that you're living those? How do you measure how well the organization is actually taking action on those core values? Is there anything that you have in place so you have a kind of a temperature check of, hey, we're red light or yellow light on this one. We need to do more. Is there anything you're doing to
Yes.
measure that?
Well, we have leadership meetings. We do monthly, quarterly, and annually. And one of those questions is, we do look at our core values and how people are living them or not living them. So there are values that we have that, I've questioned at times, like, hey, I don't really see that this one is making as much sense as maybe another one.
Mhm.
Um, when someone is maybe not making it happen, and we're looking at them for maybe another role in the organization, the first question we ask is, are they living our core values? Because if that person is living our core values and they're not successful in their current role,
Mm.
but they're living what we believe to be the right, you know, do's and don'ts, then we want to try to find them success in another part of the organization.
Right.
So that's usually the first question that we ask when someone isn't performing up to, the standards that we want, is, are they living our core values? And if the answer is yes, then we want to try to find them a position. So we do actually utilize it quite a bit. And I remember when we started this 6, 7 years ago, I was like, will we do that? Will this just be words on paper?
Right.
And I think our leadership team has done a phenomenal job of executing and showing that, we are going to look at these values each and every day and make decisions based on them, hiring
And
decisions too.
in managing through the core values, how has that helped you as an organization? I go back to that surviving versus thriving. How has that helped you kind of continue to thrive? I mean, obviously the landscape is much different post COVID than during COVID. Every organization is being impacted in a little bit different way, but how have you really used those core values to help you continue to thrive in a more difficult market?
I think it helps us, make decisions. I just talked about charity quarterly initiatives, giving back to our local community. We don't want to, if the business isn't as strong as it maybe was 2 years ago, does that mean we wouldn't do those things? No, it doesn't. We want to continue to try and help wherever we can possible. Where I think maybe if we didn't have that value, it'd be like, okay, well, this was a nice to have during good times, but in bad times, maybe we shouldn't be doing that. And that's just not the case.
Yeah.
We want to make decisions based on that. So, we're a family. Same thing. We could change our benefit plans, right? And we could make them a little cheaper for the organization, but that wouldn't be good for our staff, both internally and externally. No, we want to
Right.
continue to focus on our family and make them as strong as possible. So I think, for us, it at least shows us a guiding light towards the way we should be running the business and the way we have run the business. And when you're faced with that decision of should you or should you not, you should look at those values and decide, okay, does this make sense or does it, and does it live our values?
Yeah. And do you see by having those so established and measured and managed and talked about, whether it's in good times or bad, how has that impacted the tenure of your internal staff?
I think our tenure is really strong compared to most organizations. I would say our longest tenured people have been faced with the probably what I've been faced with of like, hey, we didn't have these values 6 or 7 years ago, and today we have them. So I think our newest people are probably it's more ingrained in them than the people like myself who have been here 15, 17, 20 years, because we had them again, but we just didn't put them on paper and didn't push the agenda. We'll say.
Yeah.
So it's been
And
a little different.
yeah, no, no, it's good. And outside of like the core values, can you talk about things that you're doing as an organization to help the team thrive? We know the market's tough right now. We hear it from, everybody that we talk to. It's a little bit different. Everybody's impacted in a little bit different way. But what are other things that you're doing today to help your organization continue to thrive?
I think, what we're talking about a lot is how do we go quote unquote back to basics? COVID, although helped the business, it created bad habits. And we want to be able to try to focus on what we did prior to COVID, to be focused more on relationships. So your platform is a great platform to help us, push that narrative of relationships are important. As you just touted, our stats are great. A lot of those stats come from during COVID, but also pre-COVID placements that we had made and clinicians that we've impacted and made positive, placements throughout their lives. They might not even work for us. They might be a previous employee. So trying to show that all the work that we're doing is a positive. There's a lot of negative, as you said, within the market today. And anything we can do to help the team show the work that they're doing each and every day is having a positive impact just gives them that, dopamine hit that is necessary. So um, I think that anything we can do today to show that what we're doing and those changes that we're making and having a positive impact on them are great. But at the same time, we want to focus on relationships. A lot of things in today's society do not focus on relationships. Almost everything we do today is technology based, less, chance of a relationship. Doesn't matter what you do. You used to go to like a local corner store and you'd know the owner and you'd buy your drinks or whatever from them. Like that doesn't happen anymore. You now go to a supermarket, no one knows who you are, or it's delivered to you through an app. And so those
Yeah.
relationships that you had in your community are getting fragmented. We want to ensure that our relationships are not getting fragmented in our space, and we're trying to push that narrative throughout the organization, whether it's recruitment, account management, or operations. The relationships that we have are important, and that's what's going to continue to help us thrive.
Yeah, and you mentioned a hit of dopamine. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because it is in a tough market, right? It's you're not getting those as many maybe placements. It's might be tougher to get that person placed. You're working maybe twice as hard to maybe get half as much. So
Sure.
what is that impact that you've seen getting those dopamine hits where you are getting that positive reinforcement from the outside on your team down to that individual team member that's providing that service?
Yeah. Before we launched fully with your team, we brought some of our best recruiters onto the platform and we said, use this, tell us what you think. And, I was expecting to get a bunch of negative feedback. I was expecting like, oh, this is wasting my time. Like, but instead we heard the exact opposite. We heard, this is great because it shows the work that I'm doing each and every day is making an impact. And my clinicians, although say that about me now, I didn't really think that.
Yeah,
And, just hearing the positive, confirmation that what I'm doing is working, uh, was the most impactful thing that they said. It wasn't the referrals that they got. It wasn't the, checking in or anything like that. It was, I'm getting feedback right then and there that this is working well. And the negative feedback, which doesn't happen often, was also something that some recruiters said is really helpful and it made them look a little different.
right.
Like, okay, I could have done this differently, or maybe, I'll approach this. So even the negative reviews, although some at the beginning were like, this is crazy, I don't want to see these negative reviews, we got them to see the light that, hey, these are actually super helpful, and you'd rather get some feedback, even though it's not positive, than no feedback, because no feedback is you don't know if you're doing well or you're not doing well. So
Right.
at least even in the negative ones, we were able to turn that into a positive. So I think, from our standpoint, when our senior recruiters say, hey, this is working really well, we wanted to push it down to the entire team.
Right. And I just want to go back on that. I mean, not being a great recruiter's commercial, because that's not the point. But I think the
No.
platform is what it is how do we bring that positive, because you do feel, and you said it, and I think you were saying you expected to hear from your senior recruiters negative about the platform. Is that what you were saying?
Yes. Yeah, I was expecting that they would, we try to use a lot of technology within the organization, and
Yeah.
most people will roll their eyes when we roll out something new. I understand why, because it's a change to their day, and change is difficult. But overall, the we knew that if we could get buy-in from the senior team, the chances of that working out throughout the organization would be higher, and it was. And so we were able to utilize all that positive information and use it in ways that we weren't using it prior, right? Even though we could get it, we just didn't have the ability to do it. So
Right.
it's been very helpful for us to show, what a successful recruiter can be with great relationships, and how those great relationships can build through referrals, and you can build your desk that way. So it's been very
and
helpful.
And like when you're not getting as many placements, I think getting that positive reinforcement that you're still doing a great job.
Correct.
And I know you approach the business the way I do. Everybody you have a chance to talk to is an opportunity. Maybe not today,
Yes.
but it's a seed planted. And if you water it and you nurture it, you don't know
Yes.
where that's going to end up. And
Yeah.
if you're just focused on the next transaction, you lose all that opportunity. So you had talked about strengthening relationships. So you see just the folks that are providing feedback, it is an avenue for them to strengthen that relationship with that recruiter. And you're seeing kind of that result with your team.
Yeah, I mean, you asked the question of like, what are you doing differently? And I think through the past couple of years, although they've been good, they've definitely put an emphasis on not having as much of a relationship.
Yeah.
It has been more transactional, and we're trying to get away from that transactional behavior, and focus back on the relationship of knowing that Adam's, sons play baseball, and he's going to Cooperstown for a week. Like, that's important, to know those types of things,
Right.
versus what's the pay package and what's the start date. Because you and I are never going to have a relationship that way. We're never going to be able to be truthful with one another as to what's going well and what's not going well. So, going back to that transparency aspect of it, we want our clinicians who are part of our core med family to be transparent with us on any feedback, positive or negative, so we can make improvements.
Right.
And the same for the recruitment team too. They've got to be able to have that relationship, that if something isn't going well on a contract, for us to be able to have that conversation with someone. And you can do that when you have a good relationship with someone, or a great relationship. You can't do that when you have no relationship with someone.
Yeah. I always said you can start with the relationship. We can always get to the pay package, but if you start with the pay package, it's really tough to back up and say, "Now I want a relationship," right? And
Correct. You
we
got it.
have to start relationship first, and then from a training and development perspective, and to the point still that helping recruiters just continue to grow and thrive in these times, what is Core Medical doing today to help the continuous training and development of their internal teams?
Yeah, so we're changing this whole infrastructure up, quite honestly, on training. So we have what we call Core University, which is a 3 to 4 week training program where we hire, they're not students, but we hire people into the organization for Core University. They are then put through training program to use our tech stack. They'll have phone calls, whether they would be role plays or real phone calls, and then we try to determine, based on their feedback and our manager feedback, what is the most important, or what's the best place for them to have success. So when we hire someone, we don't tell them, hey, you're going to this division or that division. We actually wait to see how they do within that training program. And depending on what they do during that training program determines what division they would go to.
Yeah.
So, right now we have 4 people in our training program. Uh, we have positions open in any of the groups. We'll see which group aligns with their values.
Yeah. And
And then, oops,
oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going to say after that, they then work with either a team lead or a manager along with our trainer, and that trainer sits with them in the bullpen along with their leadership team, and they all work together to try and get that person to the level of expectation. When you do graduate from core university, you are given your expectations of what you're supposed to do in your 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. Going back to that transparency aspect, we want to be able to show them, hey, at 1 year you should be here. At the end of 2 years you should be here. And we're trying to, show how the path to success is going to work.
Yeah, no, it's good. And as the CEO, what is the conversation that you're having with the team as things quickly went from, like you said, we're doing high transaction. I mean, everybody was just fighting to get as many people in the door as possible. It was very easy to forget about that relationship side to this transition. I know for some, it was tough. Maybe they came in during COVID, and recruitment has the way you have to recruit is so much different. So,
Yeah.
what's the messaging that you're giving to your team to help them realign their expectations of where they were to where they need to be today?
Yeah, I would say my message probably isn't as well received in that, we're trying to focus on what we were doing prior.
Yeah,
And anyone who's come in during COVID doesn't really know what you're talking about, right? So,
right,
trying to go back to basics is really the message of what we were doing prior, how we were doing business prior is really what's going to continue to win the day. And at the end of it, it's all about touch points, as you said. How many touch points can you have, whether it's phone, text, email, so on and so forth? And what are you doing to enrich the conversation with that clinician? Again, if you're only talking about pay packages or you're only talking about that job itself, the chances of you being memorable are not high. And you want every conversation that you have, whether doesn't matter if it's a clinician, a client, credentialing, you want to be memorable in a good way, and you have to be able to have a reasonable conversation with them. You know, name three things about them that have nothing to do with work.
right,
I mean, if you can't do that after a 45-minute conversation, like what did you talk about?
right. No, I'm with you.
So,
I'm with you.
so trying to get as much information in a way that is adding value to their day and educating them on the market as to what's going on, I think is what we're trying to accomplish right now.
No, that's good. And then how do you measure that? Right? How do you measure the relationship? How do you measure a recruiter's personal pipeline of trusted clinicians that are out there? Have you guys figured out how to measure the impact that that has for the individual recruiters and overall the organization?
Well, I think one is referrals. That is an important one. If you are doing your job to the best of your abilities and that clinician or that client loves you, they're most likely going to refer people to you, right? So referrals, I think, is a big part of success there. There's always the metrics of like how many connects I made or how many applications I got in, but that doesn't really show the value that you added once you start working with that person.
Right.
Obviously, we're working with you guys on feedback, but we also have feedback that we're given each and every week. We're asking our clinicians, we're asking our clients. They're able to put it on their timesheet when they approve it or when they're putting their timesheet in. They can rate their week with CoreMedical Group. They can rate their week with the facility. And so we're getting in real time what's going on, good, bad, or ugly. What is happening there? So uh, I think our like green is like 97%, which is great. But that other 3% we would never have gotten until it was too late. And so we're getting in front of things a lot faster than we used to. So little things like that are helping us show like how we're being successful and how we're continuing to thrive versus, just focusing on, well, this happened, this was a problem, and,
Yep.
we solved it or we didn't solve it. So trying to show as much positive stuff on a weekly basis is definitely been helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, when we launched this concept of online reputation management or reputation management was about monitoring, right? It was
Hmm.
about monitoring what people were saying. And I think, the approach we take is the best way to manage your reputation is to be proactive, right? Don't wait for just the feedback to come in. So I love the fact that
Sure.
you're doing that with your clinicians, with the facility, because if just asking, and I think there's many companies that just ask, and then you go, well, what do you do with that? And they're like,
Yep.
we look at it, right? We look at churn, and then and getting feedback only matters if you can take action today. And it sounds like you've built the process around it to say, how do we handle, the
Yes.
3% that are in red, and how do we turn that red into yellow and green?
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about what your process is when the negative stuff comes in?
Sure. Yeah. So if that negative feedback comes in, it goes to the recruiter, the account executive, the manager, the vice president. Like it literally goes right up the food chain, and everyone gets notified of it. And then we all sit down and talk about like, hey, what's going on here?
Right.
So
And
it's quickly like the second it's sent in, it is sent out to everyone who touches it.
and if you know what's the perspective when you reach back out to that person who provided it and they hear from somebody on your team, what is the response you get back from that?
Oh, it's always positive. I don't think it's ever. I mean, the situation might be negative,
Right.
but I don't know if they thought that they would get a call or a reach out as quick as they do.
Right.
So I think it's definitely added value to the organization that
Sure.
you know we wouldn't have taken action otherwise.
Right.
And there's not a ton of them, knock on wood. And so because there's not a ton of them, if there was 300 on, a Thursday afternoon, let's say, then maybe you can't get to them in time. So the fact that there's not an abundant, number coming through is also helpful for us to,
Right.
get after it right away.
Well, and it also establishes that you have very good process and people in place to make sure that that doesn't happen. But we're
Yeah.
humans, and
Sure.
humans
Yeah.
working with humans. You can't make everybody happy, but it's
Yes.
important to seek to understand and where
Yeah.
their head was at, where your head was at. How do you make it better? And from what we see, when that happens, it's like you almost create a stronger fan for life,
Yes.
right? When you
Yeah.
can turn that negative into a positive, they feel so much better because, like you said, most people provide feedback and they never hear back from anybody, whether it's on
Yeah.
the positive or negative side.
Totally agree. Yeah. There's nothing worse than giving feedback and not getting anything.
And not getting it right.
Yeah.
To kind of wrap, as we're kind of hitting up on time, I can't believe that time is flying by. What advice would you give if I'm a firm and I'm out there right now, and my theme for the year is survive to 25, like, and having that perspective. I think there's many that are kind of, they don't want to make an investment. They're afraid of it. They just want to try to get through it. What advice would you give those leaders out there?
I guess I'd probably say like, why do you think 25 is going to be any different?
Mm,
Like, what are you surviving to? What do you think's on the other side of that? That on January 1st, 2025, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same as
right,
December 31st, 2024. So, what? There's no reason that you can't take action today that would prevent you from you know. I don't understand why that would be a philosophy. So in our eyes, what the market we're in today is the market that we're in, and although it might get better, we're not planning on it getting better anytime soon. We're planning on this is the market that we have today. We have to know that this is where we're at, and we have to make decisions and policies and procedures based on this market, not what we hope or what we think it might be in 2025 or 26 or 27.
right.
So today is the day that you've got to make those policies, procedures, and changes to your desk or to the company to make positive impacts for 2024 that will have positive impacts on 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, and I agree. When things are rushing as fast as they were, and things were just crazy, crazy, crazy busy, you don't have the time to sometimes sit back and establish those foundational pieces. And I think for me,
Yeah.
it's like you hit it on the head. It's like now is the time to take actions on the things you can control. And I think
Yes.
we try to want to control things that are out of our control. But when you can peel that back and really just focus on what can I control today, it's only going to help you be more successful tomorrow. It
Yep.
doesn't mean that the placements are going to flow in like they did before, but it means that you're going to be better prepared today and you're setting yourself up for a better organization in the future. Um,
100%. Everything we're
and I
doing
love,
today is to make a stronger company, not just in 2024, but beyond, so
but
that
beyond.
when things are hotter, we'll be there to execute. even stronger than we were prior.
Awesome. Well, Ram, I really appreciate you sharing your insight. I like it said the first time I met, I love the fact that you know, were so focused on culture and core values. I think they're so easy to put on paper and but so difficult to execute. And love that you guys are making those decisions. Um, I'm with you. You find somebody that has those core values. It's hey,
Yeah,
you're on the right bus. You might not be in the right seat. And as
correct.
leaders, we will need to figure out what seat you can be in, because when you find somebody with those values that align so well with your organization, there's opportunity there. It's just a matter of
Agreed.
figuring out that seat is.
Yep. Well, Adam, we really appreciate the partnership, and thank you so much for having me on today.
I appreciate it as well, and wish you continued success and continued
Thanks.
thriving here in 2024. And that's a wrap, LinkedIn community. If you are looking for some recruiters that can help you in your healthcare needs, CoreMedical should be at the top of your list. 70% of their recruiters are GR certified. That means that they have been vetted by your peers and have been given the reviews and information to say there's somebody that you should talk to. No longer do you need to just work with any recruiter. Choose to work with a great recruiter and one with an organization like CoreMedical. And that's a wrap. And I wish everybody much success here the second half of the year.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Take care, Adam.